so that way your peers who are unable to join us will be able to follow in later. Okay, perfect. So, like I mentioned, the first part of this will be about the Czech visa application process. So this here is a list of all of the documents which you will need to submit with your visa application. This applies to US and Canadian citizens for the most part. If you have another citizenship aside from US or Canadian, please just drop us an email and we'll be in touch if there's any additional documents that you need. In some cases there are. So we're going to go through all of these documents step by step so that you can see what to fill out and where, and hopefully to clarify any questions that you've run into, as you, I'm sure, have been looking at these already. So the very first document that you need to fill out is this visa application form. So on our website, we have a sample visa application form, so I'll pull that up here so that you can see. And I'll maybe zoom in a little bit so it'll be easier for you to see the answers that we have pre-filled. We've done a sample one, so some of the information you'll copy and some you'll insert your own information. So I'll go through each line quickly so that you can see what they mean by each question. Some are not clear. So number 1, this will be your last name. Number 2, you can leave blank unless you've ever had a different last name. If your last name has always been what it is now, you can leave it blank. Number 3 is your first name, and if your passport includes also your middle name, you should include that here because your first name needs to match your passport exactly. And in the Czech Republic, most often if you have a middle name, it's combined with your first name because they don't really have middle names here, so it will be considered to be your first name. Number 4 is your date of birth, and this is in day, month, year format. It's really important that whenever you're writing dates on any of these documents, you write them in day, month, year format because this is the European format. If you write them in month, day, year, as you might be used to, then they would actually be the wrong date. Number 5 is your place of birth, and if you're from the US and were born in the US, this should be both the city and the state should be spelled out. And then underneath that, you'll put your country of birth, the code. For the US, it's USA. If you are from another country, let us know and I can find the country code for that. Number 6 and 7, again, if your nationality has always been the same and you're from the US, you should put USA. If you have a different nationality or were born with a different nationality, let me know and I can find the country code for you. Number 8, you can put an X in the appropriate box. And number 9, again, you can put an X in the appropriate box. Number 10, the first line is your father's last name. And the second line is his first name, his first legal name. Number 11 is your mother's last name. And again, this is her current legal last name, not her maiden name or anything like this. And then the second line is her current legal first name. Number 12, you can put an, what did I do? Okay, you can put an X in the appropriate box. And for most of you, I think that should be an ordinary passport. Number 13 is your passport number. And again, double check that this matches your passport exactly. Number 14 should be the country code of the country your passport was issued by. Number 15 is the date of issue of your passport, which can be found inside your passport on the data page. And again, in day, month, year format. Number 16 is the expiration date of your passport in day, month, year format. Number 17, if you have always lived in the same country, which is the country you were born in, you can leave this blank. If you were born in a different country than where you live now, let me know and I can help you fill this out because it's a little bit different for everybody. Number 18, your current occupation will be student, and this applies even if you have another part or full-time job. For the purposes of this application, you're a student. Number 19 will be your home university. So this one has a sample of the University of Miami, but it can be any university, whichever is your home enrollment university. And so it's just their general address, their general phone number. It doesn't need to point to a specific place. Number 20 and 21, you can copy from this sample exactly. So this is your employer or your host university in the Czech Republic. The only funny thing about this form is that our name doesn't fit into the boxes. So you have to squish the last 4 words together without spaces. So please copy it exactly as you see it on this form, otherwise it won't fit. Number 22, you can leave blank unless you've ever been to the Czech Republic before for more than 3 months. Number 23, you'll put this address, you can copy it exactly. This is the address of the Kolej Komenského dormitory. If you're intending to stay in other accommodation, private accommodation or whatever it is, please let me know as soon as possible. That's very important. And then in that case, you won't copy this address. Number 24, you'll leave blank. Your postal address at the dorm will be the same. Number 25, your visa is requested for 111 days. And this is true even if you're planning to arrive early to Prague or stay after to travel for a bit. This visa will cover only the period for which you're a student. Any time in country or in Europe that you're here for tourism purpose will be outside of this visa. And in that case, if you're an American citizen, you'll have 90 days in every 180-day period to travel as a tourist. Number 26, you can leave blank unless you've ever had another Czech visa. Number 27, you can leave blank unless you've ever had another visa for a Schengen country. Number 28, you will tick study. And again, that's the case no matter your employment status in the US. Number 29, your date of arrival and date of departure will be copied from here exactly. It's the 28th of January 2019 to the 18th of May 2019. And this again is the case even if you plan to travel. The dates need to be these dates for this form. Your place of entry in the Czech Republic will most likely be Prague or Praha in Czech. And most likely you'll be arriving by plane. For number 33, you will copy this information exactly. This is the inviting legal person who is also the head of international relations at the Faculty of Arts. So all of this information all the way through the email address you will copy exactly. Number 34, the manner of funding your stay will be yourself. And again, that's the case even if you have scholarships or financial aid from your home university. For the purposes of this application, you are funding your semester. For number 35, we recommend that you use cash and credit cards to fund your stay. And then you'll also need to tick travel and/or health insurance. But for now, leave this date blank because we'll come back to that later. On the next page, you can leave number 36 and 37 blank unless you have a spouse or children. And then we're on the last page, 38. The first line is your permanent address. So this is the address probably that's on your driver's license, for example. This is important that it's the correct permanent address because it will inform where you submit the visa application. The other issue with this is that you need to spell out words like street or northwest or the state, Florida, and you need to add USA at the end. So before you start writing, count out the boxes, and if it won't fit, you can do what we've done, remove spaces, or you can even continue underneath here on the underneath the boxes here to write it. That's what the embassy has said that they prefer. For your telephone number, remember to start it with the country code, which for the US is +1, and then your area code and phone number. And this should be a phone number where you're easily reached because if there's an issue with your application, they'll call you directly. And number 40 is your email address. So again, an email that you check regularly. If there is an issue with your application, it's most likely that they'll email you first. And then at the very bottom of the page, you'll put the place and the date. So the place is the place where you are currently now, and today's date or the date when you're signing this. And then in the box on the right, you'll sign it. And that is actually the entire visa application form. Does anybody have any questions about that? I haven't seen any come through, so hopefully not. If not, we'll move on to the next. But if when you are filling out the application, you come across something that you don't understand, please let me know. The next document will look like this. It's a document confirming your purpose of stay. This document will have your name and date of birth under where these yellow marks are. When you get this document, we will send it to you from Prague. It needs to be an original. Check that your name and your date of birth match what's in your passport exactly. That's very important. This document is going to be all in check, and basically it just says that we are confirming you'll be staying at Charles University for the duration of your program. The next document is your proof of accommodation. This will look something like this. It's, again, all in check, and you'll actually get 3 copies of this document. 2 of them will be in Czech, and they'll look just like this. A third one will be in English. What you need to submit for your visa application is just one of the Czech versions. The other Czech version and the English version are for you for your records, as you'll be signing this. And so we will, before we send them, put notes on them where you need to fill out each of the items, which includes, you'll have to include your nationality, your permanent address, and your passport number, which should match exactly what was on the application form. And this will be sent to you along with your proof of study document. So the next thing is health insurance. You're required to have legal health insurance in the Czech Republic for the duration of your stay. For most students, this means that you need to purchase a local health insurance plan. The company that we work with the most is called Maxima Pojišťovna. This is what their contracts look like. You don't necessarily need to book anything with Maxima, but it is the one that I'm going to demonstrate just so that you can see the process. Their website is quite English friendly. And they do reimburse for expenses, for example, when you go to visit a GP or a health clinic here in Prague. So that's why we demonstrate this one. So if you go to their website, which is called maximapojišťovna.cz. Again, this is in your pre-departure guide, so you can click through the link there. If the website's not already in English, you'll click EN at the top right corner here. And then once you get to the English page, you'll click Foreigners Insurance. And then Insure Online. So here you'll have 2 options. One is the Foreigners Complex Medical Insurance. The other is the Emergency Medical Care Insurance. We generally recommend that you purchase the complex medical insurance because it will cover you for a bit more than the emergency one. The emergency one, however, is a little bit cheaper. So if you would prefer to go that route, that is entirely up to you. When you select the insurance package or plan that you want, make sure that you tick that you're a student, so as long as you're under 30, so that way you get the student rate, and you'll click continue. Here on the next page, you'll be picking the length of the insurance. So this will cover you for 4 months. That's the shortest insurance period of time that will cover the entire program. And then you'll pick the policy start date, which should be the date of arrival. So in this case, the 28th of January. It can't start after the date of arrival. However, if you want to start it a little bit before, if you plan to arrive to Europe earlier than the 28th, you can do that. You just need to make sure that the expiration date is after the program end date. So you can see in this case it is. The total premium is 3,000 crowns, which is around 150 USD. So once you've selected this, you can click continue. And then here you'll put in your information. So we will just write a sample. We will put, and remember that you should write your date of birth in day, month, year format. For your city and state and address, you can put your home address, that's fine. Ooh, I have Czech keyboard. And for the phone number, it will actually also allow you to put a US phone number. So once you've done that, you can leave the dealer ID blank. You'll make sure to tick that the policyholder is identical with the insured. And then you'll click next. The screen will look exactly the same, except for now it will ask you to put in your nationality and your passport number. So once you've done that, you can click continue. Now here you'll want to check and make sure that all of your details are correct. That's really important because these details need to match the details on your application and your passport exactly. And once you've done that, you can also read over the terms and conditions of the insurance policy. You'll confirm their confirmation at the end, and then you'll go to pay the premium. Now, before you do this, we strongly encourage you to contact your bank or credit card company to let them know that you'll be making a payment in the Czech Republic. For most of you, it will seem sort of strange to your bank that you'll be making a $150 purchase in the Czech Republic, and a lot of banks will mark this payment as fraudulent and then will either refuse the charge or freeze your card. Neither of which are good situations. So if you call them in advance to let them know that you'll be making the purchase, usually they can let you know that they've put a flag on your account that you'll be making it, so you don't need to worry. And then once you've paid the premium, you will get brought to another screen where you can download your insurance contract. You'll also get it via email. Once you have this insurance contract, save it to your computer, and what we also recommend is that you email it to us. You can either email it to me or to Sasha, and we will save it on file. And this means that if you get sick while you're in Prague, if we need to take you to a hospital, for example, we already have your health insurance on file, so you won't need to worry about finding it while you're ill. We can provide it for you. So we strongly encourage you to provide these details for us. And then you'll also need to print this insurance contract and you'll submit it with your visa application. Okay, any questions about that? I don't see any yet. So the next document is this criminal history background affidavit. This is a form available for US citizens because it's quite complicated to get an FBI background check, so they've allowed US citizens to fill out this affidavit instead. And so you can fill out the top section of this, which you can see here, with the same information that's on your visa application. Remember to write your name exactly as it appears in your passport, your date of birth and day, month, year format, your telephone number with the country code first, +1. And then at the bottom of this form, there's a signature section, but you should not sign the form because you need to have it notarized. And in order to have it notarized, you need to sign it in front of the notary. So once you've filled out the top of this form, put it to the side because there's one other document that you'll need to have notarized. So you should bring these two together to have notarized before you sign them. So this document confirming sufficient financial resources is usually, it's a two-part document, and it's usually the one that is most challenging for students. So the first is quite easy. It's just the copy of the front and back of a debit card, which has to be in your name. And this photocopy also needs to be notarized. In the US, having a photocopy notarized is a little weird. Most notaries won't understand what you're asking for when you go to them to notarize a photocopy, but it's actually kind of typical here in the Czech Republic. So in case you go to a notary and they refuse to notarize this photocopy, you can write something on the photocopy that says, I certify this is an original copy of my debit card, and then you can sign that statement and they'll notarize your signature on that statement, which will be on the photocopy, thereby notarizing the copy. It seems a little bit ridiculous, but this comes up quite often. Actually, most students struggle with this, so we encourage you to remember that this is the way to solve that issue. So once you have this photocopy and your criminal history background affidavit, you can get both notarized. And this is the last document that needs to be notarized. The next document is a bank account statement. So this should be a checking account, which is in your name. And it should be attached to the debit card that you're copying, and it should have a balance of at least $3,000 US. We recommend even having a little bit more in case there's an exchange rate fluctuation, which would mean that you actually have less check crowns in your account. Now, I understand a lot of students don't have a bank account with a minimum balance of $3,000 in your name. If that's the case, if you don't have such a bank account balance, we recommend asking, for example, a parent, a family member to transfer the amount of money that you need to your account to bring it up to that balance, just enough time for you to print the online statement. You don't need to wait for your monthly statement. You just need to print a screenshot of your account or an online statement which shows your current balance more than $3,000, your name, which matches your passport. And that it's a checking account. It can't be a savings account. That's really important. It has to be a checking account. What happens to that money after you print that statement is entirely up to you, but the money needs to be in your account at the time of printing the statement. Okay, I don't see any questions, which is quite good because usually that's the one that gets people. So I will go to the next. So that's actually pretty close to the end. Aside from those documents, you need to have 2 original passport-sized photos. These are photos like you would get if you were going to apply for a new passport. So you can get them at CVS or Walgreens. They'll print them for you. But you need to go get new photos taken, and you need to submit 2 originals. We will also need these photos to provide you with your transportation pass on arrival. So you have to send scans to us, either to me or to Sasha, as soon as possible. So as soon as you get them taken, take a picture of the photo or scan it to us or send us a photo that looks like a passport photo. So that way we can get your transportation pass. If we don't receive your passport photo before your arrival, you won't have your transportation pass for the first few days, which will mean that you have to pay for transportation costs out of pocket. So it's really important that you do this. And then, once you have all of these documents, you will photocopy everything. So you have to submit 1 original and 1 photocopy of every single document. You will also photocopy your passport data page twice, and you'll also be submitting your original passport book to the embassy or consulate. And so yes, that means you actually have to give them your passport. And as well as all of the originals of all of the documents I've discussed, and photocopies of everything. I also recommend that you keep a scanned copy or photocopies of all of these documents for your own records, because when you're submitting official documents like this, it's important that you keep in mind you should keep the documents so that way you have a record of what you've submitted. And I've just gotten a question, which is the last point that I want to make, which is, when do you suggest we get started on this process? You should start on it this week. You should start on this process as soon as possible. Your visa documents from Charles University will be sent out via FedEx Express Mail by the end of this week. In almost all cases. So that means that you or your home university will receive them by the middle of next week. It's about 3-day shipping. So you'll be ready to go. So the ideal situation is that in the meantime, while you're waiting for those documents, you prepare everything else, and that way when you get those documents, you can send in your application. All of the embassies and consulates will mention that they process student visas in about 60 days, but in our experience, it takes up to 90 days. So we are strongly encouraging you to submit these as soon as possible, no later than the end of the first week of November, roughly. And I'll send out another reminder to you via email so that you remember to submit your application on time. This is not something that you want to delay on at all. I'm really stressing this because it's very important. If you submit your application late and you don't get your visa on time, you will have to delay your departure for Prague. And that is a reality, and it happens almost every semester. Students think that they can wait and take longer, it won't take so much time. It's not the case. The Czech Republic has a lot of visa applications to process right now. They really are taking the full amount of time. The visa documents, in most cases, will be sent to your home university, to your study abroad office, and then your study abroad advisor will contact you when you can pick them up. Okay, so does anybody have any more questions about the visa application process? The last thing that I'll mention, which is also important, if you want to have me look over your application before you submit it, feel free to scan me all of the documents. I will check over everything to see if there are any errors that I can spot. I'm not the be-all end-all, unfortunately, on approving these applications as much as I wish that I was, but I have seen hundreds of applications, so usually I can spot if there's a mistake. So please feel free to scan me everything in an email as soon as you have everything together, and I can check everything over for you, including your application form, everything. And don't hesitate to ask us questions. If something, you're not sure if something is good enough or, whatever it is, email Sasha or myself and we'll be able to get back to you with some information, okay? Okay, so we have another question about numbers 31 and 32 of the visa application form. I'll pull up the sample visa so everybody can see what this is referencing. So 31 and 32, no. If you're planning to enter into another EU country, you will still enter the place of entry into the Czech Republic. This isn't place of entry into Schengen. It's specifically into the country. So if you were traveling, for example, in Vienna, and your first port of entry in Czech Republic would be Brno instead of Prague, then you would write Brno. But in most cases, your port of entry will be Prague. If you already know that you'll be taking a train or a bus to Prague instead of a plane, you can write that. To be honest, they're not checking this. If you take a train instead of a plane to Prague, they're not going to reject your visa. In general, it's not the end of the world. But yes, you should write the place of entry into the Czech Republic, not Schengen. Okay, any other questions? I don't see any coming through. Ooh. Okay, so again, this is the list of, we have one more question. If you don't know your place of entry, you can write Prague. For almost everybody, it will be Prague, and that's sort of what's expected as the program is in Prague. Again, they're not checking this because as long as you've entered in Europe, you won't actually get a passport stamp in the Czech Republic. So they won't technically know. I mean, you could walk across the border from Austria and they wouldn't really know where you were coming from. So if you don't know, you can write Prague. Yeah. So again, what I have on the screen here is the complete list of documents. This is also available both in checklist form and with very detailed information in our pre-departure guide. So you can pair that with this recording of the webinar later in case you have any questions you want to check the list. That's the good resource to go to, the pre-departure guide. In our pre-departure guide, which I have here, you'll see that the visa information is in the beginning of the document. So you'll see it right here on the, the 6th page is when the visa application information starts. I should also mention in terms of submitting your visa application, this is something that I did not mention, you should submit it to an embassy which is assigned to you based on the state of your permanent residence. So you can see in our pre-departure guide the list of all of the embassies and their assigned states. So check your state. For example, if you're in Connecticut, you'll apply in New York. If you're in Chicago, you'll apply in Chicago. You cannot apply in any embassy. You have to apply in the one that's tied to your permanent address. And so, for example, if you're in Connecticut and you apply in New York and you don't have time to go to New York City, the embassy is in New York City, before you need to submit your application, that's okay. You can send it by mail. So in this case, you would send it by USPS Express Priority Mail with insurance, with tracking. Every possible safeguard should go on the envelope because your passport will be inside of it. And then again, likewise, if you can't go to pick it up at your embassy, then you should include a second envelope, pre-addressed, pre-stamped, with insurance, tracking, express mail, everything. So that way, once your application is processed, they can mail it back to you. If, for example, you go to school in Connecticut, but you live fairly close to New York City, you can send your application by mail, but then go pick it up in person if you're going to be in New York for the holidays, for example. If you're traveling between now and when you leave for Prague internationally and you need your passport, please contact me as soon as possible, because during this processing time, which again, it's 60 to 90 days, you will not have your passport. So you will need to prepare for that, and I can help walk you through the process for that. It's a little bit more complicated, but it is manageable. But we need to know as soon as possible if you will be traveling. Okay, so I'm going to continue. Let me find where I was. Okay, perfect. So the next thing I'm going to cover is, oh, sorry, I have one more visa question. We're sending it from our school address, but anticipating receiving the completed visa at our home address. How should we specify? So they will send your passport back to you in the envelope that you provide. So if you need it to go back to your home address, put your home address on the return envelope. It doesn't matter where it's been sent from. It just matters what's on the envelope. They won't change that address. So whatever you put there is what will be. Okay. Okay, perfect. So with that, I'll continue on to the next part of the webinar. So you will see here our program dates. This is an exact copy of what is on our website. So you should know already. The most important things to know, and I'll go through orientation in detail, is that our arrival day is on the 28th of January, departure day is on May 18th. These are the dates when you're expected to arrive to and depart from Prague, also the days when you have housing provided by the university and covered by your housing fee. You should also remember that you will have 2 Friday makeup days during the regular semester. Otherwise, we don't teach on Fridays except during orientation. So the first 3 weeks you have Friday activities, and then those 2 Fridays you have Friday classes. Other than that, we teach only Monday through Thursday. Okay, so in terms of course registration will begin on December 3rd at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, the same time this webinar started. And spaces will be given to courses on a first-come, first-served basis. So I will talk about the website. I don't know if everybody's already tried logging into the website, but in case you haven't, I will demonstrate how you can do that, so that way you can see all of this information. So if you haven't already registered for our website, you'll go to login in the top right corner, and then you'll click register as a new user. Once you're here, you'll put in your first name and last name. I created a sample account earlier. And then you'll put in your date of birth. October 23rd. Okay, and then you'll click register. So once you've done that, you can create your username and password. And then you'll be logged in, and those are the details you'll use for the whole semester to log in. So once you've logged in, over here under semester information, you'll see all of this information that I've gone over. So you'll see the pre-departure guide here, the sample visa application. You'll also see the link to the Facebook group, which we recommend that you join, your alumni group, where you can ask former students any questions that you might have. And loads of other information. For example, the form where you need to submit your arrival details, okay, I will update that link. And then you'll have the link to submit your arrival details. You'll also have your housing preferences form, which I believe should work. Yes, okay, good. So you should submit your housing preference form. This says that it was due October 15th. If you haven't already submitted your housing preferences, you need to do so by November 1st at the very latest. So please do so. Otherwise, you'll be assigned to absolutely any room. And unfortunately, we won't be able to take into account your preferences. So in terms of courses, if you click on courses on the left side of the screen, you will see here that you are in the spring 2019 semester. And if you scroll down, you'll already be able to see our list of courses that will be available for the spring semester. Right now, it looks like there's no spaces in any of the courses. That's not the case. It just means that we haven't updated how many spaces there are in any of the courses, which will be updated before registration. But in the meantime, you can see all of the courses, and their details. So if you click on a course title, you will see the teacher's name, the number of credits, everything about it. You'll see the schedule for the course, for example, and this course description. If you want to see the full syllabus, you can click to the section, and then the syllabus will be here in PDF. So the syllabus for all of our courses is available online. It's in a standard format, so you should be able to submit this syllabus for pre-approvals from your home university. I really encourage you to read through the entire syllabus for any course that you're interested in taking. Don't just read the title and the course description and assume that you'll like the course, because you should also check out what the assignments and the grading policy are, how much reading there is. This is an academic difference with the courses in the Czech Republic, that there typically aren't as many of assignments in each course. So that means that there may be a lot of readings, but not a lot of tests, for example. So just because a course looks like it doesn't have a lot of homework doesn't mean that it actually doesn't have a lot of homework. It might mean that you have 100 pages of reading per night or per week to go through, and you'll be expected to do that. So it's really important that you read through all of the syllabi. And we also encourage you to get more courses pre-approved from your home university than you actually plan to take. And this is because in case a course that you want to register for is full, you can sign up for a Plan B. You will automatically be registered for the intensive Czech language course. This course is taught before all of the other classes begin during orientation, and it's worth a full 3 credits. So it means before classes start fully in February, you'll have already earned 3 credits, provided that you've passed the Czech class. So you can then additionally sign up for 4 elective classes from December 3rd. You can take up to 6 elective classes with ECES. Most students take between 3 and 4 courses, but you can only register for 4 elective courses from the very beginning of course registration. Otherwise, there will be very long wait lists for all of our courses. So once you get to Prague, you'll then be able to add an additional 2 courses if you'd like to. So that means if you want to add a backup course when you get to Prague, you can do that. That will be available for you. Once course registration right before course registration begins, I'll be sending out an email with more details, a reminder that registration will begin, and also a detailed instruction sheet with screenshots about how to register. Essentially, on our website, the registration, or this line on courses right here, these lines will turn into a button which says register once registration begins. And in order to register for a course, you would just click on the button and that will register you for a course. And you'll sign out of a course the same way if you decide to sign out of a course. It's a fairly simple process, but like I said, you can already get started checking the schedules of the courses that are available. Good. So in terms of arriving in Prague, the official arrival day again is Monday, January 28th. We expect you to be in Prague by this date. Late arrivals are not possible. If you want to arrive early, you can do that. That's entirely up to you. If you arrive early, however, transportation to the dorms is your responsibility. So that means that you can either stay at the dorms if you arrive early, if you make a reservation. If you'd like to do that, you need to email Sasha in advance as far as possible to make the reservation, as this is based on availability. Or you can stay in your own accommodation and then make your way to the dorms on the 28th. But the 28th is when your housing begins. And if you'd like to use transportation to the dorm, you must submit your arrival details form by January 2nd. And again, this will be on the website under semester information. Even if you're not planning to arrive on the 28th or you don't want to use the transportation, we ask that you fill out the form just so that we know when to expect you in Prague. In terms of checking into the dorm, on the arrival day, we have staff waiting for you in the dorm lobby. We'll give you a housing package, which will have all of the most important information for you, including your transportation pass for Prague. And you will check in with your passport, and then you'll be able to go to your room. We don't have any firm programming on the arrival day, but we're there all day to help you. You are provided with sheets and towels and pillows at the dorm, which you can see in this photo. We don't recommend that you bring sheets or towels necessarily. You can purchase them when you get here if you decide that you want different ones than are provided, but most students are okay with what is provided. They typically don't use fitted sheets on beds here, usually flat sheets like you can see in the photo, so that is a bit of a cultural difference, something to keep in mind if that's important to you. The other thing that we recommend is not to overpack things like toiletries because these are quite heavy and usually students overpack anyway. Their suitcases are quite heavy and you'll want space to bring some things back after the semester ends. So you can buy any of the toiletries that you need. You can buy them in Prague. You may not be able to find the exact brand, but in most cases, you know, we have Pantene here, we have everything else. You'll manage with the products that are available. And we can also point you in the direction of big stores where you can buy these things on arrival day. You'll have your transportation pass already. And remember to submit your housing form if you haven't done that already. Okay, so in terms of where the dorm is located, this is a map of Greater Prague. So this is a very large scale map of the city. The starred items are the important items for you in this conversation. So the one on the furthest to the left is where the dorm is. The one in the middle is where our main university building is. And the one on the right is where our secondary university building is, where some of your classes will take place. If you zoom in to Prague city center, you'll see that all of these things are located in the city center. So your dorm is on a street called Parležova. And this is a Charles University dormitory in Prague 6, which is located just behind Prague Castle. I've marked here also the 2 tram stops, which are closest to the dorm, both of which are about a 5-minute walk away. In the middle, again, is our main university building, and to the right is our secondary university building, where the rest of your classes will be. The distance between the dorm and the main university building by tram from Pohojilec to Malostranska, which is the closest tram stop, it takes 10 minutes. We tell students to budget about 20 minutes or a half an hour if they want to walk or be a bit more leisurely to get from one building to the other with walking time. And the distance between our main building and Jindřiška, our secondary building, is about 10 minutes by walking. There's also a metro that can take you between the two. So you can see the dormitory is not in Old Town. Old Town is the area really in between our 2 university buildings, but it's in a much more residential area with lots of parks. And to be honest, it's quite a better standard of living than if you would be in Old Town. So hopefully you'll enjoy that, but it's important for you to know where the dorm is located. So in terms of the orientation, you'll arrive on Monday, you'll check into the dorm. In the evening, we always have a meet and greet so that you can meet other students. It's optional. You'll have a chance to buy yourself some dinner, for example, and it'll be close to the dorm, so you'll get to see a local Czech pub with traditional food. On Tuesday, which is apparently very important, you'll be able to have a housing orientation with our housing coordinator, Zuzana, and then you'll have a chance to get your student ID card, and we'll have a welcome meeting to go over the most important information about the program. Then on Wednesday, you'll have your city orientation. On Thursday and Friday, you'll have your 2 mandatory day trips, and again, these are required, so please do not plan independent travel for these days. And lastly, you'll have your intensive Czech language course, which is 3 credits. So this course meets every day for 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, either in the morning or the afternoon. And it includes Czech language, of course. Your teachers will bring you into the city to help you navigate the city in Czech, to learn how to order in Czech, all of these things. So it's supposed to be a useful Czech language course, but do keep in mind that it is a legitimate language course, and so you will have to work to earn a good grade for the course if that's important for you. The course is graded with a letter grade. There is an option to declare it pass-fail if you'd like to, and that's something that we'll explain during orientation. But before you do that, it's important to check with your home university to see if they would accept the course's pass-fail. You can find more information about that also under semester information on our website. So during the semester, we also offer a lot of trips and activities. This is just a list of things that we will be offering, but there will be a much more comprehensive list. On our website, on this link here, you can see a list of activities that we typically offer. So you can check out the film screenings that we usually offer, or different orientation trips that we may offer. And if you want to see our updated list, once you've signed in on the website, you'll go to activities. And then this list is so far what we have uploaded. So you can see there will be weekend trips to Poland, which includes Krakow and Auschwitz, and a Berlin weekend trip. We'll also definitely have a Budapest weekend trip, which we'll upload soon, and then a bunch of day trips. So in advance of the semester, we'll have a registration for all of these trips and activities. You can sign up online in advance, and then you'll pay for the ones that have a cost in advance. Some of them are free, some of them are not. We always try and keep the cost as low as possible on all of the trips. And then that way you'll know in advance which days you're going where, which weekends you're busy, which ones you're free to do independent travel or to explore the Czech Republic, for example. In terms of preparing for Prague, the first thing that we recommend is to do some research. This is really important, and it's something that our professors always stress, that they wish students knew a little bit more about the history of Czech Republic and the current political situation. There's a couple of resources here that we recommend that you check out. Expats in Prague Morning are in English. ECES, which is the second one, is in Czech, but it's Google translatable, so I recommend also reading that. It's a local Czech news source. And the last, RFERL, is a website for Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, which is somewhere that we go to tour during the semester in Prague as an optional activity. It's a really important news outlet, and we recommend that you check out their website as well. The other thing that we recommend is to start learning Czech, which I know doesn't sound daunting at all, but it is really good. The first thing that I did before I moved to Prague, and maybe you noticed that I'm not Czech, is to take some Czech lessons. I knew I was moving here long term, so I took proper lessons, but there are some free resources available for you. Duolingo now has Czech in their app and also on the desktop, so this is a free resource that we encourage you to use. And we're also putting together some ECES resources. On our YouTube channel, you'll already find our first Czech lesson, and so you can go on there and check that out as well, and I'm hoping to post some more things before your arrival. And also you should do some research about Czech culture, and this is where former students would be really important. You can join the ECES alumni group and ask former students about their experiences. But for example, the Czech Republic is known for having much different customer service and tipping requirements than the US, for example. So usually the customer service here is considered by Americans to not be very good because it's usually not very comprehensive compared to what you may expect in the US. And likewise, you're not expected to tip, or at least to tip as much as you would in the US. So this is a big difference. Also, Czechs are known for not necessarily being as open to strangers as some more Western European countries might be. And so this is important for you because I'm sure that a lot of you will want to make Czech friends when you're here. That is absolutely possible, but it will take some effort on your part. You can't expect to arrive to Prague the first day and have 20 Czech friends who all want to spend loads of time with you. You'll have to put in a little effort to going to events and trying to make connections. It's the best way to make Czech friends. And the last thing that we mention is the difference between using public transportation versus taxis in Prague. Czech people in general never use taxis unless they really, really need to. For the most part, they use public transportation because public transportation here is very inexpensive and very comprehensive. You are provided with a public transportation pass for free with your program fee. You don't need to pay for one, so there's no excuse not to use the public transportation when you're here. And Uber here is illegal, so we cannot recommend that you use Uber. If you do want to use a taxi, we'll provide you with some other companies and other apps that you can use, which are legal and are very similar and comparable in price to Uber, so that way you have those in case of emergency. Some practical considerations. I've already mentioned that you should talk to your credit card company and your bank to let them know before you make international purchases. This is especially true before you leave for Prague. just make sure to let them know that you'll be traveling and living in the Czech Republic and also any other countries you plan to travel to. So even if you just list every single European country to tell them you'll be there, it's better than you deciding last minute you want to go to Croatia and then them blocking your card because you've made a purchase in Dubrovnik. Trust me, it's not fun. I've been there and it's not great. So please make sure you call your credit card company and your bank. You'll also want to use European-style travel adapters for your electronics. These look, and I can show you what they might look like, maybe. Yeah, so a European travel adapter will look something like this for a 3-pronged American plug. It has 2 round pins, and you can buy these on Amazon, for example, or at Walmart, almost any major retailer. They're pretty inexpensive usually, so we recommend that you get a few of them because they're also very small and easy to lose, and you'll need them for almost everything. And then if you want to go to the UK, it's important as well that you also purchase a UK travel adapter, which looks something like this. The plugs in the UK are different than the plugs in Europe, so it's important that you have both if you plan to go to both places. And for example, this pulled up a Czech retailer, and this is a European to UK plug because most people here are looking for European to foreign plugs, not US to European or UK plugs. So it's much more difficult to buy these things once you're here, so we recommend that you buy them in advance. The other thing that we recommend is that you purchase heat-producing appliances once you get to Prague. These are things like hair dryers, hair straighteners, curling irons. I can speak from personal tragedy that even if you're using a voltage converter, these things can still overheat with older electric sockets in Europe or higher voltage. So these are fairly inexpensive, and we can point you in the direction of where to buy them once you get here. And the last thing that we recommend is to get an ECES card. This is the International Student Identity Card. Charles University officially recommends that their students purchase this, and it's a discount card which you buy in advance of your arrival as a student of your home university to show that you'll be an international student for this semester in Prague. So when you're filling out the form, you should say that you're a student of your home university, not Charles University, because it's the university where you are a degree-seeking student. And it can take sometimes 2 or 3 weeks to have this mailed to you. So I recommend that you just do it now if you decide that you want one. You can go into their website and see which discounts they offer. And you can decide if it will be worth it for you. For example, most of the transportation within the Czech Republic has discounts with ECES. And for the first 3 weekends, you have classes on Friday. We recommend that you stay in Prague or explore places in the Czech Republic. So this would be the perfect opportunity to use your ECES card. So that is my last item. Does anybody have any questions? I haven't seen any more come through. So if not, we'll go ahead and end the recording. Again, remember to submit your visa application as soon as possible, no later than early November. And if you want me to check it over before you submit, I'm happy to do that. We have one question: when will you know about your housing assignments? You'll know once you arrive, actually. We aren't provided with any housing assignments before you get to Prague, so unfortunately that's something that you learn when you get to the dorm. But with that being said, in most cases the dorm is able to honor your housing preferences, so if you fill out your housing form, then in most cases you'll be provided with what you've requested. And another question, is there any way to connect with other ECES students before orientation? Yes, you should go to the Facebook page, which if you go to semester information and click on the Spring 19 Facebook group, this will connect you to all of the other ECES students who will be in Prague this semester. So you can see actually there's somebody new who wants to join. People are just joining now, so definitely hop on. We should have between 120 and 130 students in the semester, so there will be loads of students for you to connect with. And it's a good way to get to know each other as well. And I also mentioned the alumni Facebook group. We encourage you to join that as well, because that way you can connect with past students who can answer your questions for you. Okay, Perfect. So if there's no other questions, I will go ahead and end the webinar. But thank you so much for attending, and I look forward to meeting you when you're in Prague.